You won't believe what happened today. The camera focuses on the old house of Little Fish, where the tenants are holding a mysterious ritual, and in the end, Peng Yi was caught sneaking around. When Little Fish texted Peng Yi, she didn't get a reply, blissfully unaware that Peng Yi had met a grim fate. Little Fish stepped out of the bedroom to chat with her husband M, but where on earth was he? Just then, the glass door in the living room suddenly rattled. Little Fish nearly jumped out of her skin, but she needed to find her husband. She called M, only to hear the ringtone coming from outside the hallway. She followed the sound and spotted a pair of eerie footprints outside the door. Heart racing, Little Fish cautiously approached to see who was there. Just then, M burst in, claiming he caught a mouse to throw away, but Little Fish noticed something odd. He was holding that mysterious red book from the tenants, pretending that it was for squishing mice. He promised to toss the book right away, but when Little Fish turned back to the bedroom, was already stuffing it into his backpack. Little Fish noticed him getting all secretive and even adding a password. She realized he must be hiding something. Meanwhile, she was still puzzled about why Aunt Right, and early the next day, Little Fish rushed to the old house and rang Aunt Peng's doorbell, only for the tenant to casually mention that Aunt Peng had moved to the countryside. Little Fish knew Aunt Peng had no other relatives, so she couldn't have moved to the countryside. The tenant, seeing she couldn't deceive Little Fish, lied and left. Back home, Little Fish saw her daughter still watching TV. She called out Yin Yin but got no response. Approaching, she spotted a scary sheep doll on the screen. Shocked, Little Fish spun her chair around. She noticed strange creases on the sheep doll's collar, just as it suddenly blurted something out. "I love Daddy most." The sudden confession nearly startled Little Fish. She stammered, "Mom, I'll help." Given that this version had been out of print for years, Little Fish was perplexed. Later that night, her daughter began talking in her sleep. With eyes closed, Little Fish comforted herself, then opened her eyes to find the sheep doll beside her. What a fright. She hastily put the sheep doll in the drawer, as M's footsteps outside drew her notice. It was 1:45 p.m. Peeking through the door crack, she spotted him getting dressed and pulling out the strange book from his backpack before heading out. Driven by a rush of anxiety, Little Fish tried to follow but accidentally yanked out her charger, causing a noise. Heard a noise and returned to the sofa casually. Little Fish, seeing her plan fail, took a rest. But she didn't notice a shadow looming behind her, and when she turned around, it was just a black dress. Terrified, she lunged at it and threw it into the wardrobe, but that's when the real horror began. She glanced at the mirror and saw a little girl sitting right next to her daughter, making her heart race faster than a roller coaster. The little girl vanished in a flash, but when she looked back at the mirror, the girl in black was back next to her daughter. Realizing this was no hallucination, Little Fish panicked as the black-clad girl locked eyes with her from the mirror. Little Fish quickly reacted and flicked on the lights, making the strange girl vanish for good. The next morning, Little Fish noticed a pattern on her daughter's chest that matched Am's, but Am seemed utterly unconcerned. Talk about a nerve-wracking moment. This time, Little Fish played it smart, waiting until 3:44 a.m. to act. Sure enough, she heard Am's phone alarm blaring from the living room. Once Am left, she sneaked over to peek at his backpack's password, then stealthily followed him out of the door. Subtitles, the elevator display showed, and was going to the rooftop. Little Fish, unaware of his intentions, bravely entered. The 8th floor appeared deserted. The flickering lights set a chilling atmosphere. Just then, she heard unlock the rooftop door. She followed, using her phone's light, and on reaching the roof, was stunned by thousands of crows circling. They flocked toward a glowing red corner. As Little Fish turned the corner, she found nodding away while craving the suspicious book, mumbling in a bizarre tone. Little Fish was at a loss for words, trying to figure out what to do when CBAM. A giant lid came crashing down, nearly hitting her. Instinctively, she stepped back, but realized some hand followed. So, she pulled out her phone to record him, but something eerie happened again. While was the only one there, the phone screen showed the outline of the girl in black. Looking down, she saw only him on her phone screen. The girl was nowhere in sight. Clearly, the girl stood before Little Fish. As she tried to touch her, old crows suddenly attacked, scaring her down the stairs. Back in the bedroom, Little Fish pretended to be in a deep sleep, just as also returned home and called out to her from behind. She dared not respond, so she silently covered her mouth. Am sensed that Little Fish was awake, as he could feel the sweat soaking through his shirt. All she could do was cover her mouth and stay quiet. The next morning, As he dashed out the door, Little Fish seized the moment and crept over to his backpack. She finally found that strange red book, but when she opened it, all she saw was blank pages. Just then, shouted from outside, asking if Little Fish had taken anything from his backpack. To avoid finding out, Little Fish discovered a hidden compartment in the bathroom, and when she opened it, she was shocked to find a very creepy altar set up by Little Fish's disbelief was palpable. It looked like had indeed gotten himself tangled up in something bizarre. After school that afternoon, Little Fish rushed to the school and was shocked to see her daughter with the tenant lady, who was covering her face with that very book. Realizing her daughter was in danger, Little Fish ran desperately, but found both her daughter and the old lady gone upon arrival. Onlookers stared puzzledly at Little Fish as she panicked, frantically seeking her daughter. Someone answered, prompting her to ask urgently, "Where's that old lady?"